I don't think there's any other way I could begin this video other than saying this. Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence, and 3 times is a pattern. David Malucas has now been let go by Arrow McLaren, and I think it's about high time we have a serious discussion about what's going on over there. So firstly, before we get into this, I just want to say a few things. This video is going to be very roughly done because I don't have a whole lot of time to put it out. My brain is completely fried after broadcasting for about 4 hours yesterday. My voice is killed as well, and I don't even have a script for this. I'm just going off the top of my head. Another warning before we really get into this video is going to be all over the place and I may rant from time to time because I have a lot to say about this and it's not pretty. So as I said at the very start of this video, David Malucas has now been let go by Arrow McLaren. And boy howdy is this news getting a lot of people riled up. So a lot of you are probably already aware as to what's been going on with Malucas so far this year, but for those who aren't, let me fill you in. Midway through his second season in IndyCar, David Malucas announced that he was leaving Dalecoin Racing. Between then and the end of the IndyCar season, there's a lot of conjecture as to where he may end up. However, during the festivities around the season finale at Laguna Seca, it was announced that David Malucas was heading off to Arrow McLaren to drive the number 6 car, replacing the outgoing Felix Rosenqvist. This news got many people, myself included, quite excited as to what Malucas could do in a competitive car. But as it's so often the case in life, things did not go to plan. Just a few weeks before the start of the IndyCar season, it was announced that David Malucas had broken his wrist in a mountain biking crash. With this news coming just a few weeks before the start of the 2024 IndyCar season, it automatically put him in doubt for the first few races of the year. A broken wrist is no joke, doubly so when you're an IndyCar driver driving an IndyCar without power steering where a lot of the load is being put on your wrists. So with this broken wrist, David Malucas was forced to miss out on the opening round of the season at St. Pete, along with the Thermal Club $1 million challenge, the Long Beach Grand Prix, as well as this past weekend's race at Barber Motorsports Park. Now, Malucas' contract with McLaren had a stipulation that said if he missed 4 races in any given season, McLaren had the right to let him go. And not even 12 hours after the checkered flag flew down Alabama, they made that decision. With this, it once again shows off the really bad culture problem at Arrow McLaren. McLaren only announced back in the summer of 2019 that they were rejoining IndyCar, and in the 4.5 years since, they have screwed over countless drivers. Well, okay, not countless, but you can count them, and you can also say exactly how they got screwed over. Before the team even became known as McLaren, James Hinchcliffe got screwed by him. He had been with Schmidt-Peterson since 2015. However, considering he had a long-standing relationship with Honda and the team were going with Chevys moving forward, he got kicked to the curb and his IndyCar career died off as a result. Then moving into the very next year, you have the Oliver Askew situation, which is one of the most egregious in recent IndyCar history. I've talked about that situation before here on this channel. Many of you are probably sick of hearing about it. And if you're on social media today, you're probably going to hear about it a lot on Twitter. But when that situation happened, everyone with the exception of Black Flags Matter, who really doesn't know what he's talking about, knew that Askew had gotten screwed over. Askew's replacement was Felix Rosenqvist, and over the next 3 years he got exposed to their craziness as well. Rosenqvist was stuck in second-rate equipment, treated as a second-rate driver, and at one point McLaren even wanted to move him over to Formula E. During that stint, there are a lot of people saying that Rosenqvist just wasn't a good IndyCar driver. But we've seen so far this season that Rosenqvist is a fantastic IndyCar driver. It takes a whole lot of talent to stick it on the pole at Long Beach in a Meyer Shank car. All Rosenqvist needed to shine was a team that gave a rat's ass about him, which is something McLaren didn't. And now finally, we move on to the driver that replaced Rosenqvist. That being David Malucas, who after breaking his wrist and not even racing in that car for McLaren has now been kicked to the curb. This decision-making from McLaren, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely asinine. I've seen Malucas drive ever since he was on the True TV show Kart Life back in 2015. And I, along with many people in the IndyCar world, know that David Malucas is a fantastic driver and maybe even a future champion. So my question is, what the hell were McLaren thinking getting rid of the guy? Now, before anyone says it, yes, I understand the uncertainty surrounding Malucas' return. Whether it be concussions or orthopedic injuries, timelines for recoveries are usually pretty random. From my experience, I've bruised kidneys in the past and was out of the cart for a few months, whereas just a year prior I had broken a rib and was in the cart the very next week. Recovery timelines can vary wildly from person to person and from injury to injury, but most half-decently run teams would have a little bit of sympathy, something that McLaren clearly does not have. This is a pattern, there can be no doubt about it. This has happened on multiple occasions, and it's gonna happen again, I feel. There seems to be a really bad cultural problem over at McLaren. The management thinks that their crap doesn't stink, and they treat their drivers like an expendable asset. Now, because I'm a somewhat influential voice in the world of IndyCar, I'm not going to go out and be all brash and say that, oh yeah, Zach Brown should be hung, drawn, and quartered for everything he's done. I'm not going to say that. However, something I will say is that this situation is embarrassing and completely unnecessary. To fire a driver locked down on a multi-year agreement only 4 races into the season after sustaining an injury before the start of it is absolutely stupid and completely unnecessary. It just seems like McLaren were looking for some sort of excuse to get rid of Malucas. And I think in doing that, they're going to hurt themselves a lot more than they realize at this point. Arrow McLaren is in the process of grenading their reputation with the fans, grenading their reputation inside the paddock along with their credibility, and grenading their reputation with the drivers in the series as well. If you're a driver looking to move teams in IndyCar, McLaren is probably going to be your last resort, because there's a track record of them not caring about their drivers. As much as Dale Coyne is going bankrupt right now, I think an IndyCar driver would be better off running for Coyne than they would be with McLaren. But I think before I speculate about the future of Aaron McLaren, we should get back on track and talk about Malucas. This is tough for him. I'm sure he's going through the ringer right now mentally. However, I'm usually an optimist. I have that glass half full mentality in life, and I think that Malucas is going to land on his feet. And hopefully he's going to find himself in even more of a competitive ride than McLaren will have been somewhere down the line. Malucas is now going to try and find his way back into IndyCar, while McLaren are going to try and find a long-term replacement. McLaren should probably look for some good lawyers too, because I think if I were David Malucas, I would be suing McLaren up the ass over the next few months. All I have to say after all of this is, good luck to David Malucas, he deserves an IndyCar ride, and may God have mercy on whoever ends up at McLaren next. Alright, well before I get myself a cease and desist letter from Arrow McLaren, or blow out my voice before a broadcast I have tomorrow night, I think I'll wrap things up here for this video. This was not the video I was expecting posting today, however it's the one you're getting anyways, so hope you enjoy it, and hope you stay tuned for a video I have coming up later on this week. Thank you all for watching, and have a great afternoon.